The global space tourism market is expected to reach $11 billion in the next decade. Interest in space travel has been skyrocketing, fueled by billionaires Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson, who have recently breached the stratosphere. But it is not just for the uber wealthy. There are other ways to experience space-like zero-gravity weightlessness. And one aviation firm is selling the experience for a fraction of the cost. Joining me now is Matt Gohd, CEO of Zero G. Matt, good to see you with us here on Kitco.
Thank you so much for having me, Michelle. It's a real pleasure to be here.
All right, well, Matt, as you know, I had the pleasure of experiencing Zero G on the 727 Boeing, G-Force One, as you call it, and this was truly a once-in-a-lifetime epic experience. And we have you on the show to tell us about that, also to give Kitco News an exclusive development. But first, why don't you give us an overview of the space tourism market at large, what's driving it, who the main players are, and what is the current market size and scope?
For sure. And again, thank you, Michelle. And it was great having you on G-Force One. And you are could be a natural astronaut. So thank you. So the space tourism market is broken into a couple pieces. One is what we would call suborbital. These are going up to the edge of space, not leaving the Earth's orbit. And that would include Jeff Bezos, Blue Origin, and Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic, us, Zero Gravity. And there's a couple players developing as well. One is called Worldview, which is going to take you up in a balloon up to about 100,000 feet. And then another one called Space Perspectives, a similar thing. So, the whole atmosphere is basically in reach for people to go to. And then if you want to do a little bit more than that, then there's obviously SpaceX with Elon Musk, or with Axiom, who works closely with Elon. And the price tag for that is a little more daunting. That's about $60 million to go visit the International Space Station for about 10 days. And there are people that are doing it. In fact, there is a group of civilians going to that in the end of February that had trained on board with us, that we have a close relationship with. And it's your imagination is the limit to what you can do, and of course your checking account.
Yeah, your imagination and your wallet, I was going to say, because some of these experiences are more expensive than others. The Zero G experience, a little bit more affordable, $7,500 per ticket. For the record, full disclosure, Kitco was comped this experience. And I'm glad we were, because I really, really enjoyed it when I took the flight a few weeks ago. I was thoroughly prepped by the Zero G team. There is a pretty intense pre-flight training that morning. I was still a bit nervous that I would throw up, but I was very proud of myself that I didn't. And it was truly a unique experience, very similar to the experience one would get with some of those more expensive flight services. But break it down for us. What does the Zero G experience entail?
So for sure, all of us are achieving a similar end, which is creating a weightless environment in our vessels. With Blue Origin, it's a capsule that's going up to the edge of space and generating about 3-ish minutes of zero gravity time. And just to describe zero gravity time, it is what it sounds like. There is no gravity in that environment. You are floating on air, and you are able to suspend yourself in air or do acrobatics, somersaults, backflips, all of those things without resistance. And it is the single most unique experience a person can have. And it's only accessible by a process it's called, we call it parabolic flights. But for Virgin and Blue, you're going up to the edge of space, and then you're coming down, and in that process, you're getting this great experience of floating weightlessly. For us, you're getting about 7 to 8 minutes of it broken down, and with Virgin and Blue, you're getting about 3-ish minutes. With Elon, you're getting it all the time. So those are the experiences that are accessible now, or available. Accessible. None of the other three are particularly accessible, even if you wanted to do them and money was no object. Just finding a place on the calendar that you could do it will be years from now.
All right. Well, as for the weightlessness, as you said, it is a very unique experience. I don't know that I was that graceful when I attempted it, but I certainly had a good time doing it. I wasn't that acrobatic, but I did enjoy tumbling about and having that completely surreal experience. Let's talk about how that's able to be achieved, though, from a physics point of view. I know that the plane flies in a federally designated airspace and does these 15 parabolas, as you mentioned, but explain the process to us. How does the plane actually achieve zero gravity?
So basically, so what the plane does is that the plane basically kind of pitches up at about 50 degrees. And then as the plane gets up towards the top of what looks like a hill, you begin to move off of the plane. So this is you, this is the plane. As you get up to here, you're lifting off the plane. The plane is kind of going like this. You're floating in this fuselage, and then you catch up to the plane, and it comes down, and you do it again. So the only difference between how we do it and how Virgin and Blue do it is they're going more straight up, and then they're kind of coming around and going straight down. And in this period from about to here to about to here, for them is about 3 minutes, and that's how they're accomplishing their zero gravity. But it is literally it's same feeling as you would be in space. So just to compare that, the International Space Station, which you're in zero gravity the whole time, is accomplishing zero gravity because it is literally falling in orbit at about 17,000 miles an hour. So it's in perpetual zero gravity as it's coming around. It doesn't really ever go up per se. It's just continuing to fall in its orbit. So that is the experience. They're identical. We've had astronauts on our plane that have said, being on our plane is the exact same feeling as being on the International Space Station. It's just longer up there.
Right. Well, I did feel somewhat like an astronaut in training, and I believe I had a collective 7 minutes in zero gravity. How does the price, though, compare to the other experiences available? As we mentioned, $7,500 per tickets for zero G. How does that compare to the others?
So right now, to fly on with Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic, which is, I would call it a rocket-powered glider that basically is dropped from a plane at about 50,000 feet, and then it goes straight up, and then kind of you get this amazing view of the Earth, and then drops down, and that's about $450,000 for that experience.
Right.
Jeff Bezos's Virgin Galactic, which is excitingly enough going up on Tuesday with William Shatner, and being a Trek fan forever, I will be glued to my seat watching that. That literally just kind of goes straight up in a rocket. You're in a capsule. Capsule separates kind of up here and kind of comes around like this. You're getting zero gravity at that point, parachutes down to Earth, and that's about 11 minutes. And that, from what I understand, just doing the math of how much they said they've taken in ticket sales, is probably a $3-4 million experience for that 11 minutes.
Right. Look, William Shatner, Captain Kirk, going to be the oldest guy to experience this at 90 years old. So I think everybody's going to be quite fascinated by seeing their Star Trek hero boldly go where he has never gone before. But, Matt, this isn't just recreational fun and games. I mean, you're also facilitating several scientific experiments via this process. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, as fun as it is to create this amazing experience for people who've dreamt of being an astronaut or dreamt of what it would feel like to be in space, half of our business is really focused on science. And in that, we work closely with major universities, MIT, Carthage, University of Florida, and others, along with NASA. And creating experiments in a microgravity environment is very important because other than going to space to see how fluids react or solids, how they change density or things of that sort, it's a little price prohibitive to go into space to try it. So we can create environments on the plane, including what it's like to be on the moon for creating what's called lunar gravity, that they can basically bring up a payload and with a computer and hands-on, see how these things work. And we've also done a significant amount of what's called suborbital medicine. We worked on a project on reanimating freeze-dried blood, which is very important for long-duration flights, and that was done on our plane. We did the first 3D printing of an organ in microgravity on our plane to test how that would work. And just recently, within the last year, we took a freezer up from Whirlpool to basically see how you could create a freezer in space. So it runs the gamut. They're interesting, and as we get more involved in the science side, which is really the part of that was founded this company, there's going to be even more interesting things, including experiments to see how pandemic viruses react in microgravity.
How do they react to microgravity? I don't even think we want to know the answer to that just yet, Matt.
Not particularly well from what the initial look is. So there could be ways of treating or working with how to solve solutions with pandemic viruses using a microgravity environment.
But this is a very expensive business to run, clearly. What is the business model here?
So we are we fly what's called as a Part 121 airline. So we fly with all the same regulations between maintenance and flight attendants and crew rest and everything else as Delta, United, and American. So for sure, we have a significant cost infrastructure to provide an extraordinarily safe environment. And it's a scale business. Is once we get over our fixed costs, our variable costs are putting people up, fuel, food, crew travel, things like that. But this year we expect to be profitable. Next year, we think our revenues will be up 60-70% just based on current demand without getting into next year, and be very profitable. And then we're also just starting a project to take on a second plane, which will, of course, double our capacity. And then we're looking at a potential third plane that we may base overseas as well. So we're looking to build this into a significant company, and how the market values things in this space could be a really exciting time for us.
Well, you're dabbling in science with the experiments, you're dabbling in space, and now you're also adding a third area that I'm following very closely and very interested in to this whole model, and that's cryptocurrencies. You are now accepting payment in Bitcoin, correct? Tell us about that.
We are. So we've partnered with Coinbase, which is obviously the premier relationship in dealing in the crypto space. So our consumers will be able to purchase tickets with Bitcoin to start, and then other cryptos as we become more comfortable. And we'll take I would say a combination view of it. We may depending on where Bitcoin is in the price cycle, which changes frequently, we may stay long a little bit to see how it goes, and then just turn the rest into cash. But more importantly is give consumers who prefer to pay and buy things with cryptos that they own and have worked out well for them, and we want to be prepared to accept that.
Well, that's a bit challenging given, as you say, the volatility in Bitcoin prices. How do you as a business counter that?
So we'll instantaneously, as soon as someone buys a ticket from us, and depending on, and again, I wouldn't say it's a particularly informed view, but just a view, we'll make a determination. Do we want to, create cash instantaneously from it at whatever the spot exchange rate is, or a percentage of it? Maybe we'll stay with 10% in Bitcoin just to see how things go, and or take it all or some. So we'll be open to what the possibilities are, and it's an interesting new day.
And so you have this partnership with Coinbase, and of course, Matt, you've heard the expression "Bitcoin to the moon." So what is your outlook on Bitcoin?
I'd like to say that of all the things I feel particularly well informed on, this would not be one of them. So people far smarter than I am think it's going to be worth a lot more based on scarcity, and people who know a lot more than I do think it's not going to be worth anything. So to me, the markets are a unique thing where everybody's entitled to express their bets, and right now the expression of bets seems to be very positive.
Well, if you're accepting Bitcoin, surely you're quite bullish on that. You wouldn't accept an asset that you deemed to be worthless within a few months' time, I would imagine.
You wouldn't, exactly. So so again, depending on our point of view at the time, will determine how much exposure we'll take in that transaction. But we'll generally have some remainder of that purchase price that we'll stay with over time and see how it goes, and which I think will be interesting.
Do you see a convergence, though, in the general cryptocurrency space and this burgeoning space tourism space as well?
I do. In fact, I was at a reception last night with some people that were more on like the NFT and crypto space, and even they were saying is that the one very interesting thing about what we're doing as far as creating this experience, and also things that we're doing, philanthropy and creating more awareness of space for STEM students, is the idea of if it's new, it's interesting. And so I think we're kind of getting bundled into that, even though we've been doing this for a while, and this concept is not new, but the adaptation to space and space tourism is new. And the audience that is interested in us, is looking as Bitcoin as their currency that they use to basically transact, and they'd rather go into their digital wallet and send us 0.15 of a Bitcoin to buy a ticket than charge it on their credit card.
All right. Well, speaking of the cryptocurrency space and wallets and making money and the way the space tourism sector is growing, do you have any advice for an investor that sees the trend in space tourism and wants exposure to it?
So right now, unfortunately, there's only really one public company in the what I call human space industry, and that's Virgin Galactic. And again, they have a very cool a vessel that's going to space, and in probably a year or so, I mean, we can see them doing 40, 50 plus flights a year at $450,000. It becomes a nice $30-40 million a year business with pretty good margins, as well as other things that they're working on as far as like hyperspace point-to-point things that they get that developed. That's going to be worth a lot of money. But the other private companies, SpaceX, for example, these companies trade even as private companies on private securities exchanges. At some point, maybe we will be in that position as well. Blue Origin, I feel very comfortable saying that will never be an investable company. I mean, that's Jeff Bezos's whole thing that he's committed to, and I don't think he's looking for partners. And a couple of the other ones, whether it's Space Perspectives or Worldview, as they're building up, my guess is they're going to be in the capital markets as well. And again, I think the other thing that's going on is the private marketplace for private companies to be able to buy and sell these. I mean, again, I know SpaceX is pretty actively traded privately, and so I think for again the sophisticated long-term investor, I think there will be opportunities to own these non-public companies, and then combined with a public company like Virgin Galactic, to give you some exposure over time, what could be a really exciting upside.
Right. Well, Matt, it was certainly an exciting experience for me to do the zero-G flight. So thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for joining us on Kitco News. Matt Gohd, CEO of Zero-G. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
And thank you for watching Kitco. Keep it right here for more.